All right, guys. Once again, welcome back to the No Fun Zone podcast. Got Charlie on the line right now. Say what's up, Charlie.
What up?
The beard himself. All right, we're just gonna hop right into it if you guys don't mind. Here we go. Charlie and I are drinking coffee.
Coffee. So much coffee.
Arguably too much.
I don't even feel the caffeine anymore. If I don't drink coffee, I get a headache.
Oh, I've been there before for sure.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. No, but
I try to skip like one day a week.
I guess that's good.
I don't know. I'm addicted to caffeine for sure.
Yeah, my problem is I'm addicted to coffee, even just the flavor, but it does affect me super hard.
Yeah.
Like, I can't drink coffee after 3:00 in the afternoon. Otherwise, I'll be awake until 3:00 in the morning. Fucking bad. Anyway, welcome to the podcast, everyone. Like I said, it's me and Charlie today. Me and Charlie just went to one of our good friends' weddings, so that was exciting. Saw some old people, shared some laughs, had some dances,
Yeah.
had some drinks. It was good. It was real good. But
Mountain wedding with guns popping off in the background is a great setting. Did you hear those guns going off in the ceremony?
no.
It was really in the distance.
Wait, like during the ceremony?
Yeah, like during the actual ceremony.
Oh,
it's
shit.
Like, pop, 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 like in the back.
I had no
It was
idea.
really subtle, but I kind of chuckled to myself, like, yeah, mountain wedding.
That sounds about right. It was definitely it was an interesting. It was very much Danny and Erica kind of wedding. Super artsy fartsy. Everything,
Yeah.
even Danny's hair, fucking big old Viking braid with the fucking
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And the dogs' names were
Loki.
There was
there was like 9 dogs there at one point. Maybe 10.
The other one. Anyway,
a
lot of dogs. Speaking of dogs, hi dogs. We got dogs here.
Oh, those fucking idiots. Okay. So let's talk about the hot news of the past couple days. Instagram influencer apocalypse happened on Monday, and everyone shit their pants. Just because, if anybody, obviously, I mean, I feel like everybody knows that this happened, but fucking Instagram and Facebook went down for like half a day, and people lost their goddamn shit, which is crazy to me. Because like it's just a social media app. It's not like the whole internet went down. So this is sort of what I was talking about last time, is the panic that ensues, or the panic that would ensue if the internet just completely shut down. Like 100% the internet shut down. We saw a little glimpse of that just because Instagram and Facebook were down.
And yeah, it's like chickens with their heads cut off, man. I just actually found a more detailed article. According to Infrastructure Vice President, a command issued during maintenance inadvertently caused a shutdown of the backbone that connects all of Facebook data centers everywhere in the world. That by itself is bad enough, but we've already explained the reason you couldn't use Facebook is that all the DNS and BGP routing information pointed to its servers suddenly disappeared. As a secondary issue. So there was actually two things. They broke their backbone, and then the DNS got wiped also. So somebody fucked up, basically.
That Mike Tyson clip. It's final.
The DNS servers were still working, but they're unreachable. Well, yeah, and the worst part about that is because the DNS is controlled for all of the domains and the routing and the access, the developers that would go in to fix shit couldn't even get in to fix shit because the way that they get in was broken.
Okay, so this is why I wanted to have you to talk about this too, because I understood almost none of that. And it's good to have somebody who is a hashtag nerd to be able to explain this. So basically, what do you mean they broke the backbone? Like,
so backbone is a general term, but conceptually it's like the frame of a car, right? Like it's what everything runs on and depends on, and then everything builds on that. So you break that, the whole thing's fucked.
So it's like the
Right. So
digital frame of the motorcycles is
yeah, it's
gone.
more conceptual. There's not a whole. It's not like a physical definition, but it's like yeah, this is the pipeline that branches off into all of the pipelines. Maybe that's a better way to think about it. Like a main water line for a city goes down, anyone attached to that city is going to lose whatever, right?
Mm.
So it's like that's the backbone. That
Okay.
makes sense, kind of.
And then the what DSS, DDS,
DNS is the
DNS.
domain name service.
That sounds right. We're just gonna roll with that.
I'm
That
bad with
sounds
acronyms,
right.
even though I look at them every fucking day. But yeah, every time you type in a domain, google.com, facebook.com, you look at you go to your router, which goes to your ISP, which then goes to the ICANN registry and says, okay, who owns this domain? Where are they pointing it to? Route your traffic there, and then they send a response, whether it's a web page or a messages app or whatever. That's just network traffic. So, but you're always asking like facebook.com/my messages or google.com/calendar or whatever, right? So when that root domain, you say google.com and it says, I don't know where that is, everything breaks.
So
it's basically like Google Maps goes down, nobody knows how to get anywhere.
That is 100% true. Like
yeah,
I've even noticed
it's pretty much the same. DNS goes down and nobody can get anywhere, like in terms of network traffic.
Yeah.
Like, and nobody knows the IPs like offhand. Like they're all obscured by the domains intentionally because that's how it's designed.
Yeah.
But
because that would be a pain if you had to type in 10765.
It's an ancient
colon.
It's an ancient pattern, man, and it's pretty fragile. There's a lot of issues that happen. I have to flush DNS all the time, and yeah.
That's
worrying.
It's
an interesting subject.
So essentially, the Facebook pipeline broke down, but then also the access to that pipeline also broke down.
Yeah.
So basically, everything. This was a small glimpse into if everything went wrong, this is how it would go wrong, dude.
This was a pretty big outage issue. Like the only thing that compares to this is when AWS had a major outage a while ago, because that they control such a large percentage of the internet. But
it's kind of a freaky microcosm into what we could potentially like. I again, we keep in like every podcast, I feel like I end up talking about this, just how fragile our society actually is. And this is a hopefully should be a wake-up call, but probably won't be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it won't be. People are going to keep facing to their phone, and then when it stops working, they're going to lose their minds.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's at the point, how there's the like cheesy saying, magic is just science we don't understand yet, kind of thing.
Oh, right? Yeah,
we're bridging that.
Or it's also called the God of the gaps.
Yeah,
anything that science can't explain, it's either magic or it's God did it.
Well, and that's the frustrating thing for me is I don't use apps like most people, so I don't really understand. Like I have a reliance on the internet and everything because I'm on it every day. I do shit.
Yeah.
But in terms of the social wasting time and that stuff that people rely on and use, I don't understand it from that point of view. But the technology I'm so familiar with, it's like looking at any engine, as a mechanic, like it just is familiar to me. But people are using all this stuff and relying on it to the point have no clue what's going on behind the scenes. That it's almost like they're putting their faith in, like in their eyes, something magic, right? They don't understand the science. Totally. They don't, they're just like, it's supposed to work magically, right?
I heard a really good sort of metaphor. It's like if you dropped off a motorcycle in like the Victorian age, eventually people would figure out how to start it and how to ride it proficiently, but they have no idea what's going on in that internal combustion engine. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, someone would figure out eventually, but it would be like hundreds of years. No.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I mean, with how fast
they dissect it, and
eventually they would figure it out potentially. Or I mean, dropping a
But
nuclear
it's
reactor.
crazy to think about how far we've come organically, right? Like when I really think about everything that we do on a day-to-day basis in the scheme of just like life and what things must have been like before any social, you know, consensus or, you know, I don't know what we call that, the rise of like human innovation and technology.
The
It's like,
ability to talk to anybody across the globe.
yeah, or even just like cars. Like I'm just driving in a car, like cruising at like 85, like, with a bunch of people also at 85. Just like, could you imagine?
Oh,
You know, like thousands of years ago.
if you honestly break that down, it's the most terrifying thing. It's an uncoordinated like flock of people all doing 80 miles an hour, and nobody's able to communicate with each other. And all it takes is one person to just fuck things up, and everybody dies. No,
Yeah,
it's also like what you were saying. I think you were using this as a metaphor, but if Google Maps went down, nobody would know how to get anywhere.
mm-hmm.
You were using that as a metaphor for like if the DNS or whatever goes down.
But it's also
very, very true. Like I've even
I experienced it last weekend, like going up to try to find the wedding. I lost signal at one point and my maps like disconnected. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. Like, I didn't write this down. You know what I mean? Like I'm following it and it came back thankfully, but I was like, I should have paid more attention.
Right.
You know, and I remember when I first got my license, my mom's like, here's a world atlas, or at least a US North America atlas. And that's how I routed everything. And then it was MapQuest.
You know? Well, and exactly. And like printing it out ahead of
time. And now it's all just real time. And then you lose connection. And
like, what do I do? Well, I've noticed it with myself. Like, I feel like I have good directional awareness. And I kind of, part of that's like, you know, growing up in Colorado, you always know where west is. But when you go to like other cities and talk to people who aren't like, they don't have, you know, the mountains are a perfect reference point. You always know where you are, at least in terms of directionality, if you can see the mountains. And people in like other cities that don't have that kind of luxury, like you'd be like, so you're going to go north on I-86, and then you're going to turn east and start going down, you know, Jefferson Street. And they're like, what? East, north, what? Is that a right or a left? And you're like, But I've even noticed it with myself. Like I've become too reliant on just Google Maps. And especially like if I'm stressed out.
Well, it's so easy just to mindlessly plug it in and have it tell you where to go. And so if I'm following directions that way, they don't stick. But if I get lost and I have to figure it out myself, and I do, then I'll remember it. Like, exactly. Oh my God, that's what I did when I went to Germany. My first day in Berlin, I just went out and decided to get lost kind of on purpose. Yep. And then had to find my way home on all the bus routes, and they were closed, and I was walking, I'm asking for directions. I got to know that like little neighborhood of Berlin really, really well. And then I was like,
because you're forced
and then it's all up here. Yeah,
exactly.
And it sticks because I wasn't just handheld telling me where to go.
Exactly. It sticks because you're having to think about it. It's not just like following directions.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to sit there
because it's mindless. Yeah.
No, my cousin told me that a long time ago. Like anytime you move to a new city, the first thing you should do is just get completely lost and figure out how to get back.
It's a great introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you know, driving a delivery truck for like 4 or 5 years helped out a lot. Because like I know North Denver, anywhere like north of Denver, for the most part, I can get myself wherever I need to go. But still, like you said, it is so much easier to just be like, you know, and I did that a couple times this weekend when I was stressed out, like trying to run back and forth and get more gear and do whatever for the sound check because I was playing guitar for the wedding. And I was super stressed out. And instead of just like, for time's sake and for my ease of mind, I was just like, fuck it, Google Maps, just tell me where to go. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but people are, I mean.
Well, Colorado is a place where detours can be kind of nice, like visually and just mentally relaxing. Like I used to commute to Boulder every day, and instead of 36, I haven't done it so long.
157
or whatever. Is it not 36? What's the road from Longmont to Boulder?
I think that's 157.
Oh,
Diagonal Highway.
119.
No, 119. Yep, that's 119.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, so yeah, I would do the back roads and the farms up to 36 on the other side.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Sort of like going by
And it
Lions.
was like, it was a little bit longer than the fastest 119 commute, but it was reliable. I was usually by myself. It was a pretty drive, and I got to know all those back roads. I just kept exploring, and I could take any route through them.
Yeah.
Well, and it was nice.
I would always much rather, I mean, like, so being a skier in Colorado, I-70 is the worst. I would always much rather, even if it takes me longer, the idea of just constant movement is so much better than just like stagnant sitting in traffic. And especially like the two of us, again, this is another part where we're sort of a dying breed. We both drive manual transmission cars. And sitting in traffic,
stop and go is a pain in the ass.
So going to Danny's bachelor party, I left on a Friday night after work and had to go up 285, and literally less than 10 miles an hour the entire way going up a hill. And when you have a clutch and you're not going fast enough where you can just leave it in first gear, so you can't do that. You're going, yeah, exactly. So you're constantly just having to engage and disengage the clutch and sort of like bounce. And at a certain point, I just stop. I let traffic move, 50 yards, and then I start moving forward so I can have a little bit of space, just so you're not having to sit there and just like constantly be sort of shifting in and out of first gear. It's
it's a nightmare. That's what I was telling you the other day. Whenever there's like an accident or any kind of traffic on I-25 and I'm going down south, I'll just do 470, the toll road.
Oh, absolutely.
All the way around. Just because it's like, okay, I'm going to cruise control 80, 85 and just chill. Except for the other day, they had 2-3 lanes closed and I hit traffic there, which was shitty.
And it really helps for those long drives?
What?
Listening to your favorite podcast, No Fun Zone. Check it out. Download, save, download it on your Spotify. That way you've always got it, even if you don't have service. But yeah, listen to your favorite podcast, No Fun Zone.
Make the drive go quicker.
No, honestly though, like long drives like that, and especially with my new job, it's going to require a lot of driving. Podcasts saved my life. Being able to just put a podcast on and just sort of absorb yourself into a story or into a conversation, and it allows your mind to sort of wander and still think about stuff, but also just like gets your mind off of just like the frustration of traffic. So everyone, listen to podcasts. Keep it going. No, I was actually very stoked at the rehearsal dinner. One of me and Danny's like good friends, Woody, came up and was like, "Hey man, I've been listening to the podcast. I didn't even realize it was you for the longest time, and I'm actually really enjoying it." I was like,
"Wait,
really?
They found it organically?"
He found it through when I had Danny on, and I posted on Instagram like, "Oh, D starts on the new podcast episode. Check it out." And that's when he started listening. And then he said he's like gone back and listened to like all the other ones.
Oh, that's cool.
For somebody to like not realize that it's their friend doing it, which also I'm kind of insulted because I mean, come on.
It's good and bad, right? It's like
no, but for him to say that, for him to organically actually like be enjoying it, like that was a good feeling.
Yeah, you're not listening to it just because it's your friend. You're listening to it because it's interesting, right? That's great. So, well, and that's like, I turned on my Twitch gaming stream the other day to test. That's part of another reason why I got a new setup here. And I just was turning it on mostly to test the settings. And some old friend of mine like hopped in and watched, for a while. And it was like, oh, like someone's actually here to check this out. It's kind of cool.
It's cool to know that your voice isn't literally just going off into the void of the internet.
I still feel weird hearing my own voice though. Hearing it back, it's just kind of like, I realize I sound a lot like Leo. Or Leo and I sound similar. Like the way that we kind of laugh and
you guys are brothers.
What?
So I would expect that you might sound a little similar and at least have some of the same mannerisms.
I haven't listened to my own voice in so long, like the podcasts and like doing some streaming stuff. It's all right. It's growing on me. I'm getting back more okay with it the more I listen to it.
It's definitely very weird. It's absolutely very weird. But you do get used to it after a little while. Yeah. Especially when I was trying to do like practice episodes and just record by myself, it was so strange.
I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
Sitting in a room and literally just talking to nobody, I felt like an insane person. Like legitimately.
Oh, it's kind of fitting. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Danny, in the last episode that I recorded with him, he did call me he looked at all the stuff in my apartment and called me a happy schizophrenic. I was like, I mean, I guess I'll take it. But also, I hope I'm not a schizophrenic. I think I would have shown symptoms by now. Maybe I am. I don't know. Who knows? If there's any psychologists listening / watching, diagnose me. Let me know.
Do you hear that?
That old joke when we were kids. Hey, I'm a schizophrenic, and so am I. I randomly just thought about that today. Shit. Well, let's dive into. Okay, I feel like I've been getting super into alternative history recently. For some reason, like I feel like I keep bringing up like the Younger Dryas on podcast. Me and Danny just talked about the Younger Dryas for like a good portion of the last episode, but I've been getting into just like researching alternative views of history, and it's super, super interesting to me. And I can't really put my finger on why, but I think it's sort of like it might be sci-fi related. Because science fiction is sort of like a retelling of fictional history, and like how could it be different and still sort of make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's cool to think about those things, and what little factors ended up making major repercussions in the history of humankind, right? Like,
what's the phrase?
Or like if something had been like done slightly differently, like what else could have been different?
Yeah, and also you have to look at the context of who's the person who is telling the history. It's usually the victors of the war. So
true, yeah.
Let's say if Nazi Germany and Hitler had taken over the world, history would have a totally different sort of context to how it was presented. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the difference of who is telling the story and why they're telling the story is very interesting to me.
Well, it's like the barbarian invasion. The Romans told the story, so everyone else was savage.
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
The nomadic German tribes are savages.
Yeah. It's same thing for American colonization, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The
man.
Native Americans they were savage people.
Yeah.
And anytime you're painting with that broad of a brush, you're bound to be wrong. There was many, very peaceful Native American tribes. There was also the Comanches in like Texas and like Oklahoma that were legitimate like warriors. Like if you try and fuck with the Comanches, you're gonna get scalped, dude. But that just is what it is. Whereas like the Arapaho was a much more sort of peaceful tribe.
Uh-huh.
And Danny and I were talking about how sort of nomadic people tend to be a little bit more in tune with nature, where they don't really overhunt and overkill their prey.
Yeah, it's a much more harmonious, like symbiotic relationship with nature, right? Like give and take in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
Whereas
our modern culture is just
take,
dude, take it, dude, take it all.
Actually, that's so weird. That reminds me of the Netflix did a reboot of the Voltron cartoon series, which is actually really cool. And like the old, Altean aliens that are like the good guys had like this, respectful symbiotic relationship with the universe and all these planets and aliens to do what they needed to do. And then the evil race of like Galra shows up, and they just figure out how to siphon the life force out of everything and harness it for their own power and just leave everything dead in their wake.
And
it's I'd never really put that together, but yeah, I guess that's kind of where mainstream humanity's been moving.
Well, that's a theory. That's the not quite QAnon, but like that's the conspiracy theory as far as like aliens go, and the reptiles. And I think the Pleiadians, they feed off of our orgone energy, which is like rage and anger, but also sexual energy, and like that's what they use to sort of sustain themselves, is feeding off of our orgone energy.
I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah, I've gotten deep into aliens. Just because it's fun.
Giggity.
It's just interesting.
You're getting some deep alien action.
Dude, bring the space pussy. Where's the space pussy at? No, but same kind of idea is like, so I mean, the theory is that, like, you know, if you believe people like David Icke and Beyond a Pale Horse, there's like 13 races of aliens that have been in contact with humans, and the reptilians are like sort of the higher beings that are actually feeding off of our organ energy. People say that the grays, the little grays that you see at like Roswell and stuff, those are just they're sort of biomechanical sort of drones almost, which is a very interesting concept.
That makes me think of the Men in Black, like the little tiny guy that's like controlling the robot human face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which, I mean, the Men in Black is another super interesting topic.
Yeah,
of like how there's stories of themselves being their own sort of alien race that are like completely bald, no eyebrows, have to survive off of like salted water. I don't even know. And then like supposedly, this is getting into just some weird stuff, but Eben was the live alien that they found after Roswell, and he was more similar to a fungus or like a mushroom than he was similar to like an animal. And that's an interesting concept, because fungus this is actually a really good transition into sort of what I was kind of thinking about.
Yeah.
This is a really good transition.
Perfect.
Fungus is closer related. So like a mushroom is biologically closer related to, you know, an animal than it is a plant, you know. And
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
I guess it makes sense thinking about it.
Well, and then there's also the idea of the mycelium layer, which basically is the fungus layer underneath the surface layer of dirt that is able to communicate, you know, with itself and be able to sort of distribute nutrients across. You know, the mycelium layer is, I believe, I can look this up, but I believe it's the largest like living organism on the planet.
That's kind of like the metaphor they gave at the wedding for the aspen groves.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. This is what I was thinking about when she was talking about that. I was like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here. Strange but true. The largest organism on Earth is a fungus. But the way that they sort of are able to communicate with each other through this like sort of connection is very similar to how our brains function. You know, it's like a neural network. And if it's the largest organism on the planet, it's also one of the oldest. Just fungus in general came along billions of years ago, like long before even, I think, maybe not multi-celled organisms, but way longer than any vertebrate species was ever around. Which is interesting that, you know, certain mushrooms and certain funguses and certain molds,
fungi.
This guy over here, he's a fun guy.
Yeah.
But it does kind of raise the question of like, why do certain fungi have the effect on human consciousness the way that they do? If they're one of the most ancient sort of life forms on the planet, and we evolved alongside with them, you know, that brings up the I believe it was Terence McKenna came up with the stoned ape theory, or maybe it was Timothy Leary. It was one of the two of them. But do you know this theory? Oh, you don't know this? Oh, the stoned
we might have talked about it, but by name doesn't stick out immediately.
So the stoned ape theory is sort of basically what happens is in human evolution, we split from a previous ancestor in the ape family. The idea roughly is that due to climate change and environmental changes, our pre-ancestors moved from, primarily dwelling in trees and, eating fruits and nuts and whatever and sort of scavenging. Um, the jungle sort of started, dissipating away hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years ago, maybe a million years ago, or a couple million. And our ancestors were forced to adapt, and they left the trees and started just like walking through the fields, and maybe not walking, but living more in the grasslands. And that's when they started experimenting with different foods and flipping over cow patties and finding psilocybin mushrooms. And that's one theory that could sort
Yeah,
of,
we did talk about this.
yeah,
That is sound familiar.
but that's the theory that, like, I mean, that could potentially just explain the doubling of the human brain size, and especially the forebrain region.
Yeah, this is ringing a bell now.
Yeah,
Like,
which, like, to me it's a compelling argument, because mushrooms do force you to think in a totally different way.
yeah.
And
Well, psychedelics in general, I think mushrooms are just
yeah,
one of the gentlest forms of psychedelic, right?
yeah, one of them. I
One
mean,
of them. I mean, weed is technically a psychedelic, I guess.
yeah, and there's
But
tons of other hallucinogenic fungus out there, like what is it called? Starts with an A. This is basically a milder form of a hallucinogenic mushroom. That's very associated with early Christianity. I can't. That name is going to piss me off that I can't remember that. But to me, the theory kind of makes sense, and especially like when you look at cave art and sort of the mixing of animal and human hybrids. That's something that's pretty universally experienced by people who take a high dose of mushrooms, or even like a ergot, which is a mold that forms on, I believe, wheat or barley, which some people have said that was the cause of the sort of insane actions of the girls during the Salem witch trial. And ergot is sort of a relative to LSD. So it's a hallucinogenic that sort of grows naturally if you don't store your grains properly. And so there's all these things that are, naturally grown, that early humans or pre-humans would probably have experimented with. And that's when you start to get this sort of shamanistic culture sort of coming out of the society being formed. Is one monkey takes a heroic dose of mushrooms because they don't know what they're doing. They're just eating. They find a cow patty and they find something that's edible underneath, and they eat all the mushrooms. And then all of a sudden they just ate 12 to 15 grams of mushrooms. And they start seeing what is most likely going to be interpreted as a god, or as, an entity that's speaking to you and giving you answers.
Well, I think that's really interesting, in the repeatability or similarities in the human psyche and mindset, because that's one of the biggest arguments for some of the things like Ancient Aliens, is the similarities in these otherworldly kind of religious stories or backgrounds. But if it could be, like you're saying, like a lot of people have very similar themes when they trip, like the human animal hybrids, or like flying shit, or whatever that might be. So the
geometric
similarities,
patterns.
exactly. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing that every area of the world kind of evolved a little on its own in terms of the mental or societal growth and religion and stuff, but there's so many underlying themes that are the same coming from a source like this.
And
cool
it could be just that human psychology is roughly the same worldwide, and as we were sort of developing culture and developing society, it ends up forming in very similar ways. And it might be that connection of you know, humans are a lot more similar than we are dissimilar. And I mean, there's also like,
Yeah.
in pretty much every novel and every story, it's the hero's journey. I can't remember the guy who wrote the book called The Hero's Journey, but essentially saying that, like, almost every story is going to hit these certain themes. The person starts in an area of comfort, and this goes with pretty much all religious stories, not all, but a significant portion of like religious tales and allegories is the hero's journey of, the hero starts at a place of comfort, and then a conflict ensues. They are not able to overcome that conflict, so they have to go and do some sort of, I guess, soul searching or learning. A lot of times it's in a cave or on a mountaintop. There's very often a sort of a shamanistic kind of teacher figure who teaches you the ways, and then they learn how to overcome the obstacle that came over originally, and then they end up returning back home more well-rounded and as a better person for it.
And I've heard stories even recently of people, going to, what is it, South America for like an ayahuasca spirit journey, and like coming back like, dude, changed my life, like positively.
Absolutely.
It's an intense experience. Most of the time it makes you face like some of your worst fears in a way that is terrifying, but is in a way that you come out the other side and you're no longer afraid.
Yeah, I mean, that's
and so it can be a really intense journey, but there can be a lot of mental and emotional growth come from it.
Well, that's where growth comes from, right? Is from struggle.
You don't get better at something. It's like lifting weights. You gotta burn the muscle to make more muscle, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that comes with
As the guy who doesn't lift anymore. As my muscles deteriorate away. Yeah, I'm just like on a computer all day.
I mean, but your finger muscles.
This is fitting, huh?
Yeah, that's very fitting to exactly what we're talking about right now. That's very fitting. That's a perfect shirt to be wearing.
There's me.
Yeah, but that is sort of like that sort of ties back into what we were talking about at the beginning, is how weak we are and how reliant we are on the ease that society has sort of given us.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I've been thinking about, is like, is the next phase of human evolution just like pure consciousness, kind of like Alter Carbon, where like, physical bodies are just vehicles, it doesn't matter anymore. Like the entire existence of each person is their mind, their, social profiles, and, like the actual human element becomes, not as real or, common. And it might be necessary in 100 years if we keep killing the planet the way it is, right? Like maybe we can't go out and party in real life anymore. Everyone's mole people underground. I don't know.
Well, the conspiracy theory would be that COVID was the first sort of like introduction into that world. You know what I mean? Of just like, oh, this is going to be coming. We need isolated. The Illuminati are preparing us for a time when we won't be able to go outside. We'll all be living in a simulation. And George Soros and Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, ladies and gentlemen, they're preparing us for a time where we're going to be stuck inside. And they're preparing us for Elon Musk's the simulation theory is real and nothing's real. No, but for real, that sort of like hits on that simulation theory idea of like, if we continue to progress, eventually someone will create a simulation that is indistinguishable from real life, and then we get back into the Matrix talk. Of like the guy,
a lot of stuff like that. Like Matrix is, I think one of the most quintessential ones from like our lifetime. Battlestar Galactica is a little bit like that. It's more the prequel series that they did called Caprica. It's before they invent the robot race that has sentience and revolts. Like that's the whole backstory of Battlestar. But in Caprica, it's before that has really come out, and it's still futuristic. But everyone's wearing what they call holobands, which is just like, VR headset, but it's to the point at which you're completely there and you feel everything, you know what I mean? Like super VR, and they actually
Or like
use
augmented reality.
yeah, and it also kind of connects to a Black Mirror episode where they take everything from your life and your like social profiles and all the data that they have on you as a human, and they reconstruct an avatar of you to the point at which it's actually like reviving your essence and your soul. Like you actually can continue living as a digital copy of yourself in this world. So they reinvent it as a artificial afterlife.
Yeah.
Like they basically said, everybody sign up here, give us all your data, and when you die, we'll import you into this happy. Yeah, exactly. And so Caprica, if you haven't seen it, it's only got like 1 or 2 seasons. It's actually pretty good. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
I think.
Well, I mean, all this
decent.
stuff has been talked about since like Isaac Asimov in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wrote Foundation series and the Robot series, which the Robot series is basically I, Robot with Will Smith, but it's the same kind of idea. Like this stuff, really, really smart people have been talking about this for 70 years. And then dumbasses like us come around in 2021 and go like, it's coming. It's coming now. But yeah, it's definitely...
I was gonna say this has been a great like full kind of circle.
We've gone through all
topic rounds. Yeah,
we just did the hero's journey. We started here, conflict resolution, return back to home. Yeah, no, we're living in a weird time, man. We're living in a very weird time. I feel like we're living in a very sort of transitional point in human history. Or like if we can make it through the next 50 years, you know, the
outcome's going to be something very different.
The technological change in the next 50 years, because technology just, you know, it grows exponentially.
Like, and the impact of those on each other, right? Society, technology.
Well, and it's you know, chicken or the egg situation. Is society sort of causing this influx in technology and moving towards this, or is technology sort of bringing us along with it, and society is just changing naturally based on the technology and like social media and, you know, everyone just having
I think
online avatar.
I think it's like recursive. Like, I think they're both, you know, influencing, building off each other for sure.
Totally.
Anyway.
There's a really good thing I was going to say that fit in with that very well, but I think it's gone now. Yeah, man.
Shit.
Somebody said human beings are the sex organ of technology. And the idea of like we're on this planet to create more technology, because that's all human beings have done since the dawn of time. You know, we figured out fire, and then we figured out the wheel, and then we figured out, you know, eventually, you know, writing, and then we figured out the printing press, and then light bulbs, and then cars, and we went from essentially a little more than 100 years ago. I mean, in the span of, I think like 50 or 60 years, we went from the Wright brothers inventing the airplane to us landing on the moon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's insane.
And then we can get back into the idea of the aliens that we've been talking to, that Truman met with in the 1940s, have been giving us little bits of technology, you know, every so often, like fiber optics. How do we come up with that? Coincidentally, then we start splitting the nuclear, splitting the atom. Conveniently, right around the time when supposedly we got in contact with aliens. So I'm not saying that this is true or anything, but I mean,
think about it.
Look into it.
It makes me think of that South Park where the McGeezax, whatever, comes.
Baby farts McGeezax.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you guys ready for the trials?
I don't think we are.
Yeah,
even though
probably not.
I don't know. The Pentagon released stuff about aliens.
Always hope.
UFOs flying all over. Have you ever seen a UFO there, Charlie? Or anything weird?
I've seen some weird shit, yeah. You know, not obvious, but I always try to explain it. It's mostly, you know, light reflections and other things.
Swamp gas.
Mm-hmm.
and the swamp gas. The government is hiding this information from the people, and
it's a training exercise. It's just a training exercise.
And in Los Alamos, Balbazar has revealed secret documents, and we have propulsion devices from other galaxies, and yeah, I don't know. It's hard to. I think maybe that's why I've been getting into sort of history's mysteries, I guess. That's a fun way to say it. But like alternative history kind of stuff is.
That could be like a theme for the, like every once in a while do like a history's mysteries episode. Talk about mysterious history.
Mystery history. Mr. History episode.
Mysterious Historious.
That sounds like I don't know.
Anyway,
a Greek historian, like Herodotus.
Historious. Mysterio.
But yeah, I think that's maybe why I'm getting into that stuff, because like I can't make heads or toe of what's going on today. So maybe if I can figure out what happened in the past, I don't know. We didn't even really get onto the topic of mushrooms and like religion and just like
Well, we planted the seed. We planted the seed. We'll go into that next time.
The spores have been flung, and the spores are being planted as we speak. Yeah, we can get into that. I want to do some more research and like start reading. I've been reading this book, which I guess I could plug. It's called The Long Trip: Prehistory of Psychedelia by Paul Devreux. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. But it's super, super interesting and sort of going through like.
Yeah, I'll steal it from you when you're done.
Yeah, totally. Danny almost stole it the other day. I was like, no, I'm reading that right now. But it is an interesting concept. And I mean, for like a sort of a hunter-gatherer society, how else would you interpret like a psychedelic trip like that, other than it's God communicating to me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People still,
because you have no frame of reference. And like we were talking about at the beginning, the God of the gaps theory of just like anything we can explain, because like humans always need an explanation for everything. Even if you make it up, we need something. Like I'm sure our parents did that to us when we were little kids, and you ask them a million questions about like, why is the sky blue? And they're just like, fucking fairies or something. Humans need an answer.
Yeah.
No matter what, even if we're just like pulling it out of our ass. And so it kind of makes sense that like we had no idea what these funguses were doing to our brains, so we just go like, oh well, that must be God, that must be we have an explanation for that,
a higher power of some kind. That's yeah. Well, food for thought. I gotta wrap up here in a few minutes. We gotta move on.
Totally. I think we've been going for quite a while now. What time we got?
It should have been at least
that's plenty.
30, 40 minutes.
That is plenty, I think. Yeah, that'll be another good topic for discussion in the future, is going a little bit more sort of deep into that. All right, guys. I think that's it for now. That's enough for you guys. You get a little taste, and we'll tease you for the future.
Get out of here. Go outside. Walk around. Get some sun.
Go outside, but put headphones in and listen to No Fun Zone podcast. All right, everyone. I guess that's it. Tune in once again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And we'll catch you guys later. All right. Hey, thanks, Charlie. Love you, dude.
Yeah, man. Love being on.
Yeah, we'll figure things out in the future. All right. Peace.
Till next time.
Until next time. All right, that's it for the old episode there, guys. Like, follow, subscribe, do all the things you're supposed to do. Help try and blow this podcast up. Tell your friends. I don't think I've ever said that before, but tell your friends to listen. If you think it's cool, chances are your friends do too. So yeah, just give us a good old shout on the old the Instagram, the YouTubes, the Spotify's, the Amazon Musics, the kind of wherever you get your podcasts at. And we'll see you guys again next week. Peace.